Next on The Kirky B Show, Bella Brown and the Jealous Lovers.
Oh, it's incredible. Bella Brown and the Jealous Lovers
Yes, we're in the house, in the
in the
building.
house,
That's
along
right.
with Dan Pearson, who is the co-conspirator and co-producer of this whole project. And Bella and Dan, I know you guys are just making massive, massive trails of fire. And I want to get into that with you guys because, man, I've been following you, and I know you guys have a lot of followers and a lot of people that are fans. And I just want to jump right into how you guys got all into it.
All right. We jumping into it.
Just jump in.
Yes. Bella Brown and the Jealous Lovers
Yes.
is it's a collective of amazing musicians, and I'm the front person for it. And it's really a vision of the collective of great musicians from different projects and different projects that we've been on, and musicians that we admire, and the songwriting that we've been doing, and the songs that we've been doing over the last, I want to tell you, honey, over the last, how long? 3 years. Our latest album that we're going to be putting out is a collective of those songs. So, it's been a journey, and it's a 70s soul funk throwback vibe that expresses really how we feel about our music and how we feel about our musical experiences that we've had along the way. And it's got a touch of all the folks that we admired along the way. You know what I mean? All the music and the artists that we've enjoyed along the way. And then we wrapped that up and we made Bella Brown and the Jealous Lovers, honey. And here we are. So there you go.
Here you are. And listen, I'm one big fan myself. And I understand that you guys are signed to a label in England. Is this true? Because, man, I know England supports this kind of thing through and through.
Yep, we do. With funk music, and soul music specifically,
Right.
is a huge thing overseas. When I've toured with other artists overseas, I was surprised that how much, soul music is still, a part of the fabric of the music that folks are listening to today, especially music from the 70s. So yeah, we're signed to a label over there, and it's been wonderful because they really seem to understand where we're trying to go with our music also, and they love it. They're in touch with it. What do you?
Yeah, it was kind of it's a style of music that we grew up listening to, right? So it was kind of a natural progression. Once we saw that there was viable outlets for it on an independent level, which is what we are, and which is what our label is. This isn't, we're not under the umbrella of some huge corporation. So it was just a natural thing for us to go, well, yeah, I mean, we've been listening to this music. We grew up listening to this music. And how can we take this music and how can we take it and move forward with it? And can we find an audience for it? And it just seemed to be a natural audience, especially in the UK and in Europe. But we've been making some inroads here. There's been some radio play here of the new single and some of our past stuff as well. So it's been a really interesting journey in that respect.
Yeah, and I just think that, like you said, UK, they just always seem to be on the leading edge of this kind of music, and it's supported. You go into any club at any time, and they'll be bumping Bella Brown and the Jealous Lovers and all the other stuff like you just mentioned that we all love and grew up with. And I feel like sometimes in America, it comes and it goes.
Yeah.
And it's cyclical, and it goes real fast, and it'll come back and it'll go away, and it'll come back and go away, which to me makes me feel like there's no true love and true support. I myself have toured in Europe, and the fans are great grandparents, the parents, the kids, the grandkids. I mean, So there's a longevity, and I think with what you guys are doing, this will be a forever thing. Do you find that true?
Well, we hope so. It definitely seems like there's the possibility of that. It's still a pretty new project in terms of like how far we've gotten. It's been a few years, but it's been those years have been building. But yeah, we definitely find that there's this audience out there that it's been over a good age range and an interesting mix of people, but there's people out there who really just dig the music. I guess it's just a testimony that what you get fed from major media outlets isn't the only thing that's going on.
Yeah, we're excited and looking forward to exploring that audience too overseas. We're looking forward to doing live shows. We're looking forward to continuing to release music. And yeah, it's exciting because, like you said, you can go anywhere over in Europe, even Spain and Italy and these places. You go into a restaurant and they're playing soul music there too, at the restaurants, at the clubs, so it's the audience is there. And so yeah, we're trying to reach out a little further overseas. Our label is in Cambridge, and we're excited for that. We feel very welcome. And the States, like you said, it's kind of trendy, right? And incredibly youthful. So they're always looking, they're constantly reinventing, trying to reinvent themselves, here in the States, which we love our States. We love the folks that dig our music here too. But like you said, for longevity, we're trying to stretch out a little bit, and that's been positive. That's been very positive. So we're looking forward.
And you guys have that kind of music that just reaches people. And, for me, when I listen to it, it's like, okay, I got to get up and move around. I mean, so when that happens, the dishes get done, the vacuuming, clean the toilets, and my wife's like, oh, you got that Bella Brown on again.
Yeah, when we're growing up, listening to music at the house, all the funk music and the soul music that, like you said, is kind of spiritual, right? You're like, it reaches down in you and you're like, yeah, let me get up and get the dishes done. Let me get up and continue on with life. And I feel like that's a huge element that we're trying to continue on with our music too. We are really telling stories and incorporating the vibe of like humanity, right? Of your daily grind and of your family and your friends and your relationships. We're putting it all in there. The experience.
All these world and life experiences all rolled up into Bella Brown and the Jealous Lovers. I love it. Bella, tell us about coming up and who were like your main inspirations coming up.
Ooh, so I got to tell all the business, right? The business is that my father is a singer. And so growing up, we listened to a lot of, he's Southern also. So we grew up listening to gospel music too. And Baptist gospel church music. And then we got into that Motown, honey. We get into the Isley Brothers, we get into the Commodores, we get into, and I'm trying to mention some bands because Bella Brown and Jealous Lovers is a collective, it's a band. So we get into all the funk bands, the soul bands, and then a lot of female singers that we got into with the Aretha and the help me out here. We just got into a lot of the good soul singers and the soul music and the bands of and the Motown sound. So that's what I grew up listening to, and my daddy was singing it all the time, and my mother was dancing to it all the time. So that energy of being around the house with that kind of music, that was really kind of telling our stories. Singing what we were feeling and going through is what I grew up listening to.
Right. And the same goes for you, Dan?
Yeah. There was, there's a lot of influences in the project that, that from what I grew up listening to. I think one of the biggest ones would be Sly and the Family Stone. Where they had that mix. They were kind of giving you a kind of a funky take on Motown, but they were also an interracial band. They were in an intergender band, and it was a very forward-thinking kind of thing. So, we just kind of naturally, a lot of the stuff we do kind of comes from, I always think it kind of comes from that space of what they were doing, they were such a heavy influence. I mean, I think Prince, I think Prince is kind of a guy who came out of that Sly and the Family Stone tradition as well. So there's that. There's a lot of rock things. There's always, like in every song, there's always a Jimi Hendrix Easter egg in there, compositionally.
It's true.
Like somewhere in there, if you really listen, you're like, I think that's kind of a Hendrix-esque type thing in terms of the composition. But yeah, so there's, it's really kind of a lot of the music from the 60s and the 70s, soul, funk, rock. That was kind of an era where guys didn't mind borrowing from other genres. It wasn't as segregated as it seems to be now, in a lot of respects.
Yeah, I'm really feeling that. Like, I just feel like now we're back to separating, whereas music has always been a gatherer of all the tribes, and we don't look at the color, we don't look at anything other than the fact that either the music is great or it's not. And most of the time it's great, because as we know, as we're having this conversation, it's all subject to our tastes.
Right.
And with you, Bella, when you're singing and when you're performing, are you coming from a place of gathering the people on the dance floor and getting them up and moving and letting them, giving them that space to just let go of, I mean, I'll just go here, these crazy world issues that are going on right now? Is it a moment for them to escape that, or do you want to bring them together and bring that kind of consciousness into it, so we could bring it on a higher level, or a little bit of both?
A little bit of both. I think you encapsulate all that in live performance. And live performance is so amazing when you can gather like-minded folks who are coming to a show to release, to connect and release, right? We're releasing energy, we're connecting through the music, and the music is storytelling. And everybody has their own interpretation of a song, right? And depends on what day, how you feel about the song. So, or even the group that you're coming to see. And like Dan says, we're very multicultural, interracial, and the subjects of our writing expand. It depends, because we write together for Bella Brown and the Jealous Lovers, and it depends. We could be talking about what's going on in the world on the level of like politics, on the level of like mental health concerns, on the level of like sometimes just how you feel right in the moment today. So yeah, when we get together as a collective and play, when we get together in front of an audience and perform, we are inviting everyone to express themselves and to share positively what they're going through in the moment. Sing the song, sing along. How do you feel about it today? And I'm doing the same thing. I'm up there sharing how I feel. And everybody in the band who's playing is doing the same thing, sharing how you feel, expressing yourself, and hopefully ending up in the same place, ending up in love. You know what I mean? That's where we're trying to get to,
Absolutely. There's so much of that lacking these days, no matter where you turn. And, music is that one thing that could not only bring us all together, but it brings the love in, because we don't have any sort of barrier while you guys are performing. There's no barrier. It's just the great music and the great feeling and the people that surround you, your friends, your family, the music, the musicians. And I completely agree with you guys. Now, pointing back to the both of you, you are the two creators of Bella Brown and the Jealous Lovers, the both of you.
Mhm.
Yes, you want to expound on that?
Yes, we both kind of came up for the concept for the group and for the type of music we wanted to do about 3 years ago.
And when you guys are creating together, is it something that you guys just sit down and say, okay, here's the vibe that we're going to go for today? Or do you guys just sit behind the instruments and just start going at it and then find something? What's the process? Take us through a typical Bella Brown and the Jealous Lovers process of song creation.
Wow, that's a good question, because it varies a lot. But because it is kind of a throwback thing, we're kind of always looking for something, some type of an influence. And then you kind of start there, and if it sparks an idea, it just kind of continues to roll. So that might be a bass line, that might be a keyboard part, that might be a lyric, that might be an overall concept of what we want to say. So it's kind of hard, it's kind of hard to say this is the way it works every time, because there's not really an every time process. It's like you kind of find something interesting, whether it's an interesting idea or whether it's an interesting kind of musical motif, and you just kind of grow from it. So it's hard to say this is the way we do it every time. It's really not how it works. It's you kind of find something, you go, that's interesting, and then you just pull on that thread.
Yeah, and sometimes one of us is struck with an idea or something, and we go, you know what? I was in the studio, I put this down, listen to this, tell me what you think about it. That's the collab part of it, where we just kind of get together and go, yeah, I feel you, I hear that. Or I'm not, it's in your head, but it's not out there yet. So let's work on that.
Wow, I like that. It's in your head, but it's not out there yet.
Right. It's in your head, but it's not coming across yet. And that's how we kind of collaborate on, like, how do we get that idea out there the strongest? And we bounce off of each other a lot. Sometimes it's quick. Sometimes it's like, oh, I feel that. There's some times when I'm just like, I hear what you're saying. Let me write some, add to that, and vice versa. And then sometimes it's like, man, I'm coming back to this idea. Like, I'll be back to this idea a month from now, because I'm still not being able, like you said, to get it out of my head and into the world. So that's some of what we go through too.
Yeah, it's an interesting process.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so like she said, sometimes it takes some time for something to kind of formate on its own. Like you'll come up with an idea and you might not think it's much of anything. You listen to it a couple of weeks later, you're like, no, there's something there. It's a really interesting process. I think she describes it better than me. But it really comes down to this kind of, we're finding ideas, we're kind of bouncing them off each other. Like just like we're having in this conversation, I think she comes with more conceptual things out of the box than I do. I might come with like little pieces of things,
Right. Now, where do you guys see yourselves in 3 to 5 years? I know that's always like a shot in the dark kind of question, but
love this question.
But I just feel like with this kind of music and the direction you guys are going, and the artist that you are, Bella, and Dan, the producer and collaborator, I just feel like this has such a strong future. Where do you see this in 3 to 5 years?
Who's taking that?
We look at each other like,
like the dating game. Remember that?
Right. I'm totally excited for Bella Brown and the Jealous Lovers. I mean, we just came out of this COVID thing where you couldn't travel, you couldn't play. All you could do is stay home and write, which was beautiful, because that's what we did. We stayed home, we did the writing and producing and everything like that. And now we're very excited. That's why I said I'm excited about this question. We're excited to get out there and share and like put the music out there and see how everyone receives it, because we've been under the in our own worlds for lack of a better term, for the
Right.
last, 3 years. So this is exciting. And when we get the music played on the radio and we get feedback from the DJs that they're like, oh, people are feeling that song. We're like, oh my gosh, they really did enjoy what we wrote. It's not just in our heads, where, it's out there. So it's exciting in the next few years to be able to continue to write, get feedback from what we've written already, and the live performances and traveling that we plan on doing. That's a big scope of things. So it's I'm thrilled. I can't wait to meet folks who the music is connecting to and how they feel about it. So I'm excited for
Right.
what's coming up.
Yeah, I think she's right. The COVID thing was really a lot of this record was written and recorded during COVID. The kind of the mixing, mastering, and getting it ready to be out there kind of happened, like in this later period. But so that was kind of a big part of what happened with this record, was us being creative over that time. And now that it's out, or that this single from it is out, the entire LP should be out sometime in February. But we haven't announced that yet. So
You have here on the Kirky B Show.
Yeah, I said that. But yeah. Now we're really hoping that it gets out, it gets some traction. We get dealt a hand that we can play and hopefully bring it in front of audiences live. We'll probably start by doing some stuff here locally in LA. Right. We still have to conceptualize what that's going to be. If it's going to be just one show or a series of shows, something that reoccurs, and see if we can take it overseas. Like she said, the European thing has been good for us. We've also been getting some attention in South America, which is nice. Brazil and Argentina, maybe I think a little bit in Chile as well, which has been exciting. Because South America, when they're very excited about music as well, and just like in Europe, I think they connect to things that they feel are coming from a space that's real.
Right.
So whenever we gain a little bit of an audience, it's always exciting. But I think we're just going to keep following that.
Now, how important do you guys find the whole social media thing? Because I know, we could go on there and we see the same people and they post a gajillion things a day. And it seems like that's the way people are disseminating all their information, whether it be music or construction or how to screw in a light bulb. But I feel like, I was reading this article about the average person swipes to the next after 8 seconds because their attention span is only that long. And the three of us, we all came up listening to one side of the record, flip it over, listen to the other side, and then assess. But now it's like 8 seconds, and if it ain't happening in 8 seconds, swipe on. Right. It seems like you guys really encompass the feel of the music and the depth and the projection of it and where you want it to go. And that's the important thing. And I find that so refreshing because, it would be so easy to just sit there and blast us all day long, all day long. And it'd be like, well, I'm not interested. But I think we're all interested in Bella Brown and the Jealous Lovers because you guys just put enough out there. Just enough, like, ooh, what's that? And it makes me want to press more on the phone or press more on the keyboards and check it out. I mean, what's your guys' take on that?
Real talk, we have to embrace social media. And social media can be really great. It's a great tool. When we have to do social media to promote the music so that people near and far know that it's there and can connect to it. When I'm doing those TikTok videos and they only give me 30 seconds to a minute to get that information out, because that's how it is.
It's all going to be crammed in there.
It's all going to be crammed in. You got to get it done, So that can be that can feel like pressure, or that can feel like shoot your best shot type of vibe. And that's how it feels when I'm doing these, little quick little TikTok videos or these little promos for the label, where we're just, like you said, you don't have much time. You got 8 to 10 seconds. Folks are in their cars, or please don't do it while you're in your car.
Hey, I do it sometimes.
Right, on the train or doing something, or picking up their kids, and they only have this much time to look at the social media. You do have a small amount of time, but when that music comes out of there, when that 20, 30 seconds to a minute of Bella Brown and the Jealous Lovers comes through social media, it's got to be powerful. It's got to be strong. It's got to be the message. It's got to be now.
Yeah, and it just, I just feel like you guys seem to have a good handle on that, because I don't feel inundated. I don't feel like I'm hit over the head, but it's just enough to make me feel like, ooh, I got to get that. I got to listen to that. And I think whatever you guys are doing, that seems to be the magic concoction. Because there are some folks out there that's just like, you know what? Now I know everything about you. Now I don't care.
Right.
And I know that could be offensive. I don't know, but man, I just know that when you get hit over the head X amount of times, you're like, okay, enough.
Right.
It's, well, yeah, the social media thing, it's interesting because we're all inundated with so much stimulus now.
Right.
Everyone in the world. So that's kind of a crazy thing when you think about it, like how much information is coming into us. But at the same time, we're able to communicate with people all over the world, like instantaneously. That's a beautiful thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I really appreciate what you said. And if anything, I think if that's how we're coming across, I think it's because we're always looking for something that's interesting, to present something that's interesting. Because I think everybody knows that. I think when you find something that's interesting, I think other, people can always agree on that. They can't agree on what's good or bad or what's legitimate or illegitimate, but they can always, if something is interesting, they can always go, yes, I find that interesting. Even on a subconscious level, where they don't always go, yes, interesting, and raise their hand, but they just respond to it because they're interested. So yeah, I think if we're successful in that way, it's because we're just trying, is the artwork interesting?
It's intentional.
Yeah,
absolutely. It's intentional. Right. What the message we're trying to put out there. It's intentional, like you said, the look, the vibe, the music, the message in the music. It's all very intentional. We're hoping everybody receives what we put out there. And from what you're saying, yeah, you're picking up what we're putting down type of thing. So we're definitely shooting for that. It's very intentional. It's not, and it's full of experience. You know what I mean? It's full of something to say, full of experience from the entire band. Over the COVID, while we were doing remote sessions, everything was we talked it out. It was intentional. Every person that we used, it was intentional to record. It was very intentional. What do they bring to the project? What do they have to say? So that's coming across in the music. It's not an experiment in that way.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like you can get people's attention if something's interesting, but you're not really going to be able to hold their attention unless they think it's worthwhile. So
absolutely, well said. Yeah.
So then you have to you try to grab them with something that's interesting, and you try to hold them with them going, hey, this is worthwhile. It's worth my time. And so you have to come to them,
and especially the audience that digs our music.
I'm just going to rewind a little bit. Let's say 25, 30 years. Do you think this type of format would have worked way back then, when there were labels and just gobs of money being thrown at you and, come on, Bella, we're going to sign you, here's $1 gajillion. Would that have been, you think, to an advantage back then?
Ooh.
I'm thinking of social media. So social media being there in the 1970s. And wow.
Yeah,
Well, I'm
that's
talking like late 80s, early 90s, that kind of vibe.
Oh, late 80s.
oh, lady.
Okay.
Yeah.
It would have been different.
Yeah.
The energy during the 60s and 70s was different than obviously than the 80s and 90s. 80s and 90s was a little bit more like we had lost leaders and stuff before. It was high politics, war, all that stuff that the country was dealing with, that the world was dealing with. 80s, 90s, a little bit more like we're out of that, right? We're a little bit more successful. Now the internet is a new frontier. So yeah, throwing the money at us and telling us, you can have everything you want without paying interest on it would have made this project a little bit more like less for me. Gotta get through, gotta reach, gotta be specific, gotta hit the bullet point. Would have been a little bit fluffier, right? Bella was actually around, honey, in the 80s and 90s trying to, book the gig and be seen and be heard. And it was easier, to be honest with you. It was easier. And now with social media and get it out now and everybody being able to get to each other quickly, but distance, there's distance.
Yeah, that human touch is lacking, isn't it?
It's less, for sure. So yeah, it would be different.
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I mean, you think about what it would have been there, but then you start to realize, well, this is really kind of the paramount thing with how things are being done right now. And I guess that's always been a thing with music, right? Is the technology kind of dictates things. Before you had recorded music, people wouldn't be able to hear music unless you had written it out and it had been traveled to someplace else and some other guys reproduced it. So it's like the world for musicians keeps getting smaller. But every time it does, it adds a lot of confusion and it's like these new frontiers every time. And I think that's kind of where we're at, is everybody's trying to figure out where we're going. This new in technology kind of just hits us. It's like they don't prepare us for it. You don't go to school and they go, hey, there's this new technology coming out and here's how you should use it. It just hits us and we kind of react to it. And that's probably the defining thing of the time that we live in now, is we're all just really reacting to this technology, everyone on the planet, including artists. And
trying to stay connected.
Yeah, and finding our way with it.
Yeah, and trying to stay connected.
Well, you guys are certainly doing a great job of that as a true fan and follower here. And just in closing, I want to just say, everybody, please check out Bella Brown and the Jealous Lovers. And you guys, can you give me some links that the folks out there can click onto and check you out and follow you and be a fan of you and buy your music? Where can we all get that?
Bella Brown and the JealousLovers.com. You can also go to our record label, LRK Records. They have a Bandcamp page with where they sell our stuff on vinyl as well as digital. You can go, of course, to Facebook, Bella Brown and the Jealous Lovers, lead you right to us. And on Instagram, our handle is @BBJLmusic.
Absolutely.
Fantastic.
And the single's out, so clap. Y'all better get it. It's a party. Come on, clap your hands.
Yes.
And that's on all platforms. So yeah.
Yeah, it's
love it. I just want to thank you guys so much for joining me here on the Cricket Bee Show. We're out of time. And man, I just wish you guys so much success. And I look forward to the release of the album. I look forward to seeing you guys live. Oh, any live gigs coming up that we could check out?
Not yet. We're working on some stuff for next year.
2024. We're coming
All right.
out.
Well, make sure to keep me posted, and I'll make sure to get it up on the Kirky B Show. Everybody, Bella Brown and the Jealous Lovers on the Kirky B Show.
Thank you, Kirky B.
All right. Thank you.
Ciao.
Peace.